The regular meeting of the Planning Commission is called to order for August 24th, 7 p.m. At this time, we'll take a moment of silent prayer or meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Williams. Paulina, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Williams?
Present.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Here.
Commissioner Ng?
Here.
Oh. Vice Chair Lewis?
Here.
And then Chair Becerra?
Here. So they will move to approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes of July 13, 2021? Hearing none, the minutes of July 13, 2021 are approved and submitted. We'll move to oral communications. This is a time when any member of the public may speak to the Commission on any matter within the scope of duties assigned to the Commission relating to non-agendized or consent calendar items. Other matters included on this agenda may be addressed when that item is under consideration. For all oral communications, the chairperson may impose reasonable limitations to public comments to assure an order and timely meeting. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the Planning Commission and staff's ability to respond to public comments at this meeting. Thus, your comments may be agendized for a future meeting or referred to staff. The Commission may ask questions for clarification if desired at this time. By policy, the Commission oral communications at this time on agenda is limited to a total of 15 minutes. Tonight we have 3 public hearings and 1 non-hearing item. We will be moving item number 3 first. We have requests for that. Paulina, who will be presenting the staff report?
Joanne Burns, our planning manager, will be providing the presentation.
Is there Thomas Klingler? Just a quick question. We don't have which agenda that you wanted to speak. Item number 3? Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission, and also members of the public. This item was initially initially came about due to a request from the Auto Plaza Business Improvement District. On July 2021, the City Council received a request from the Auto Plaza bid to adopt a code amendment and zone change for an overlay zone. The City Council initially initiated the amendment at the July 20th, 2021 City Council meeting. Tonight, the Planning Commission will receive the proposed changes to the municipal code and make a recommendation to the City Council. The Planning Commission recommendation will be presented to the City Council at a later City Council meeting. To clarify on the location of the Auto Plaza zone proposed overlay zone location, the area encompasses all service commercial zone properties located south of the Interstate 10 freeway, east of Azusa Avenue, north of Norma Avenue, which is here, and west of Baymar. The area is highlighted in pink and is surrounded by the dotted lines on the projector. The purpose of adopting an overlay zone would be for the city's economic development, to improve the city's branding, and also to allow prospective car buyers from cities and also nearby communities to recognize that the city of West Covina is a premier city for purchasing vehicles. In addition to that, the staff looked at sales tax revenues from new car dealerships and compared them to sales tax revenues for used car dealerships, and found that sales tax revenues generated from new car dealerships are significantly higher, and in some years more than 8 times higher than used car dealerships. A little bit of history regarding the West Covina Auto Plaza Business Improvement District. The West Covina Auto Plaza area initially began or started in the 1980s, where the City Council adopted guidelines that established the district for new cars. The Auto Plaza bid was then established in 1993. For the purpose of the Auto Plaza bid was to act as a trade association of retailers of automobiles and promote mutual interests of its members by lawful means, conducting advertising, selling, and public relation campaigns pertaining to various automobiles sold in the area. Covenants were recorded by the former redevelopment agency restricting certain properties within the Auto Plaza area for new car dealerships only. And going to the proposed new division, staff is proposing that, based on the City Council's initiation, that the Auto Plaza overlay zone be permitted only for the sales of new vehicles as its sole primary use, and also be allowed accessory uses. These accessory uses would be related to the sales of new cars within the dealership, which would be sales of used cars limited to 30% of the total vehicle inventory, vehicle service shops, car washes, or car wash for dealership vehicles only, vehicle rental for customers utilizing dealership services, electric vehicle charging station. And the only temporary use allowed would be filming for the purpose of advertising the said dealership. And in addition to that, one of the requirements was to require security lighting, that light standards or poles be lit from sunset until 9 p.m. and light standards and poles have dimmer lighting between 9 p.m. and sunrise. This is mainly for security purposes. And with the proposed code amendment, the development standards, there's a listing stating that the development standards for all uses within, or all properties within the Auto Plaza overlay zone will utilize the development standards written in the non-residential uses section of the code. And some other changes being proposed are in the film permit section, which is a cross-reference, so that anybody looking into that section will know that there is a separate section under the overlay zone for those certain properties. And also, there is also a cross-reference in the land use matrix in the non-residential uses that clarify that that section does not apply to the Auto Plaza overlay zone, so that anybody that's looking for certain uses, permitted uses in the city would automatically know that the Auto Plaza is zone, that particular zone is not applicable for the Auto Plaza overlay zone. With this, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolution numbers 20-6091 and 21-6092, recommending that the City Council approve zone change 21-01 and Code Amendment 21-01. If the Planning Commission has any questions, I'm available to answer.
Joanne, does that complete the report?
Yes.
At this time, we'll hear testimony. We're actually going to open public hearing, excuse me. We'll hear testimony from the applicant. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us tonight. I'm Patrick Elamati. I'm General Counsel for Envision Motors. We're an automotive group that's comprised of 9 dealerships, 4 of which are in West Covina and 3 of which sit in the West Covina Auto Mall. West Covina is our headquarters and our home. I'm here on behalf of Envision with the support of Performance Ford and Norm Reeves Honda, fellow participants in the Auto Plaza, to show support for the proposed overlay zone and to provide some reasoning, some of which was touched on earlier today, as to why it would be most beneficial for the city, its residents, and the current business owners in the Auto Plaza for the proposed overlay zone to go through. Now, most of these reasons stem from one driving cause, and that's the manufacturers that we operate with. The vehicle manufacturers require new car dealers to meet very strict guidelines in a number of areas, including safety standards, cleanliness, insurance, security, and image. These requirements ensure to the public that certain standards are met, and that knowledge provides to the consumer, as well as the cities we operate in, a certain comfort that's not provided otherwise. That additional level of comfort is very important to ensure the success and continued growth of the West Covina Auto Plaza. Now, it's best for the city for a number of reasons, one of which would be the image requirements by the manufacturers. We're required to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year and millions every few years on maintaining the building, signage, showroom, and all areas of the dealership to ensure they're clean, aesthetically pleasing, and secure. Every few years, we invest large capital expenditures into our dealerships to update the images. Currently, we're spending almost $2.5 million at the service center for Mercedes in renovations. These requirements don't exist for used car dealerships. So operators like us, Honda and Ford, and frankly, primarily the city, are left picking up the slack for ensuring that everything looks good and that everything is secure. And as was touched on earlier, new car franchises typically generate significantly more tax revenue. In 2020, the new car dealerships in the West Covina Auto Mall generated over $45 million in tax revenue. And we're estimating through 2021, just through July, that we've generated close to $60 million in tax revenues. Now, new car dealerships are the highest and best use for the auto mall property. If the city sold one movie permit a month, it would take about 2,000 years to generate the tax revenues we've produced so far this year. In addition, the overlay zone would be beneficial for the residents. New car franchises are intensely regulated when it comes to the quality of the product given to consumers. We consistently spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on updating equipment to ensure the quality of the product, as well as hiring and training staff. When it comes to used cars, we have substantially more rigorous certification and reconditioning processes. Abiding by factory certification standards is a process. It is a serious task. And it's a task that requires us to employ scores of people to work and spend money in West Covina. Between the new car franchises in West Covina Auto Mall, we employ close to 500 people. Used car franchises aren't required to operate by those same requirements or make those same guarantees. If used car dealers start selling unsafe or subpar vehicles out of the West Covina Auto Mall, that affects consumers as well as the reputation of every car dealer in the auto mall. Those customers will tell their friends not to come back to West Covina, to go to Puente Hills instead. Now, each of those items, is, in addition to being beneficial to the city and to the residents, is beneficial to us. But also, we spend disproportionately more on advertising, meaning the new car dealers would be bringing in substantially more foot traffic to the auto plaza, disproportionately benefiting used car dealers. With other new car dealers, the discrepancy doesn't exist. They each have a similar range of how much to spend per vehicle, close to $400 or to $600 a vehicle. In 2020, the new car dealers in West Covina Auto Mall spent over $5 million in advertising, just getting customers to come to West Covina. In 2021, we've almost spent $5 million so far. And the foot traffic produced is not created equal. The foot traffic between and among new car dealerships is more of a two-way street. If someone comes to Toyota and they don't find what they like, they're likely to wander over to Honda, and there's a similar approach. Foot traffic between used and new car dealerships is not as mutually beneficial because used car dealers do not have to meet the same reconditioning standards or incur the costs associated with doing so. Envision Motors, along with each of the new car dealers in the West Covina Auto Mall, strongly support the overlay zone for the reasons just discussed, and we hope that you join us in supporting it as well. Thank you.
At this time, are there any in favor of this project that would like to come forward? Anyone in favor of the project would like to come and speak in favor of the project? Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. My name is Jen Ballou. I'm the general manager for the Honda store. And I want to second everything that Patrick said, but maybe get a little bit more in depth and put it in perspective for people that are not in the automotive sphere. For example, it puts new car franchising into disadvantage. If somebody comes to a lot looking for a used car, we have to spend, my store, if I will speak on behalf of my store, I have to spend anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 in certifying the technicians every month. Therefore, cost of my technicians to be factory certified is much higher. So therefore, my cost of reconditioning of the car is going to be higher, and I have to pass it on to the consumer. Now, with that said, consumer doesn't just pay more for the car, they get in a better vehicle. They get latest and greatest updates from the factories that unfortunately is not available to the used car franchises. We're obligated to use the latest and greatest equipment. For example, most of the newer cars come with some sort of autonomous driving capabilities, such as autonomous braking, maybe adaptive cruise control. A regular alignment machine, just to do a regular alignment, cannot fix that. It has to be done with a machine that's cost anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000 that has to align all the sensors that come with the vehicle. So therefore, again, we're required to spend that money on our car. Therefore, cost of our reconditioning has become much higher due to the equipment that we have, the capital expenditures that we have to spend onto in our service department, paying more for our technicians because they're required constantly to get certified. So when somebody comes in onto the lot, legally we have to do smog and safety. But for example, if a car, in order for it to get certified, if they all have brand new tires, the rear tires are, let's say, Falcon tires, and the front tires are Michelin tires, that would not qualify for a certified car. All 4 tires have to match. Another example, if there's 3 panels that have been painted, the vehicle is sound, the structural integrity of the vehicle is all there. However, 3 panels have been painted, we cannot certify that car. For a used car lot, there's really no laws against it because the vehicle is still sound to drive. For the most part, we spend an enormous amount of money on advertising, driving the traffic into the lot. And for the most part, if we allow used car dealers go into a new car auto malls, all they do, they just essentially, not to use leeching word, but they feed off of our traffic. And due to their lower reconditioning cost requirements, they can beat us with a price point for the same exact, that might seem which is the same exact car, but the reality is it's not the same. It looks the same, it might feel the same, but they're really not the same cars. They don't have the 4 matching tires. Again, they might have panels that have been painted, maybe 3 or 4 panels have been painted, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So if we, again, allow to have used car franchises to go into the lot, it does put us into disadvantage. Another thing that I might add is in the last 1.5 or 2 years due to COVID, rental companies, for example, I believe Enterprise is trying to get in, they are not allowed to, they weren't allowed to buy any cars from the factories due to the lack of inventory. This situation is going to go on for another 2, 3, 4 years maybe. I mean, yesterday we just got off the call with American Honda when Southeast Asia got hit with COVID. There's not going to be any inventory for quite some time. Where would used car lots would get their cars, right? They're not going to get them on. They generally go out into the open marketplace to go buy them, such as auctions. When they buy them, they have to, the person that buys a car is the one that paid the most for the vehicle. So the only way to turn profit and make it sustainable is to cut corners on reconditioning. So again, it puts us, the new car dealers, into a big disadvantage when we end up having a used car franchise onto the automobile zone, where again we bring all the traffic, we bring the business down to the dealership, and they just kind of feed off of our expense. That's all I have.
Thank you. You did fill out a pink card, did you not? Did you fill out? No, I'm asking the gentleman just spoke. You did? Okay.
Not to mention the franchise values.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
My name is Jimmy.
I'm just trying to see which one was yours. I didn't see.
There's that.
Is there? It's okay. Your name?
Good evening. My name is Simon Saradine. You have it. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The reason we're here this evening, just I want to address the value of our franchise. I believe Patrick touched on the revenue and everything else, but what we would like to address is the value of our franchise. For an example, a Mercedes store, there's 373 Mercedes stores in the country. They generate an excess of $250 million revenue a year. And the value of the store, it will be greater because it is in a new car auto mall. So now our intention in the beginning, as you guys address it in your slide, like this mall was originally originated for a new car franchise. And that's the intention when we bought the store, was a new car franchise. And at one time they had drive time, and I believe drive time, and they have temporary permit for them. And then drive time, as you see, they went out of business and they're gone. And now some other used car lot, it will be there. My big concern with that, there's 2 empty lots there. So today we have a used car lot. Tomorrow we have some other used car lot. And before we know it, we're a used car lot. I mean, we spend $100 million just to buy a franchise of Mercedes. You spend $40 million to buy a Honda franchise, to buy a Toyota franchise. You spend $25 million to buy an Audi franchise. So we have a lot of investment in the city. We generate revenue for the city. We create a lot of employment for the city. I mean, there's 600 employees working for us. Let's call it 50% they live here in West Covina. I can assure you that at least more than 50% live here. So, these people live here, they work here, we support them, we take care of them. I mean, we're really a good neighbor here to be here. You can ask in our city, we're in multiple cities. We have a store in Escondido, we have a store in the city of Cerritos. And the city of Cerritos doesn't have a used car lot, it is an auto mall. I mean, we have a new car mall. It has a new car mall. It doesn't have a used car lot. They don't allow that. So I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Basically, that's really what we would like to cover. I mean, that's the intention. And one other thing, if I may add, you know, the movie thing. It is a problem. I mean, when you have 40 truck parked there, creating a movie. I mean, you know, it's Universal Studio down the street. I mean, they can do it in Universal Studio. They don't have to do it in West Covina. I mean, they pay a permit of $2,600 to do a movie theater. So, I'm sorry, movie filming. So it's $2,600. Assuming they do, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them a year, 6, whatever it is. It's $15,000. I mean, it is ridiculous. It interrupts the whole street, the whole business. We have a bunch of trucks, bunch of people come there, and we have a lot of people. You know, these days, I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of what's going on. Another issue is the safety. You know, by this lot, you know, they don't keep the light on. It doesn't look good in the city. It doesn't look good for us, which, as I saw on the slide, the light has to stay till 9 o'clock. That doesn't take place there. So it creates a lot of theft, a lot of issue, and a lot of problem in this area. I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we ask Patrick Elamadir. Oh, you already spoke. We have one more, but they didn't write if they were for or against. Is there a Joe Velasco? Are you for or against? You're against? Okay. Well, we'll start with you. Would you like to come up?
Oh, okay. I'm Joe, by the way. I'll speak to the crowd if you don't mind. Speaking of the mic? Okay. I'm Joe Velasco. I'm a resident 15 years. You know, I don't really understand the whole scope of it, but I definitely want somebody to take up that dealership. My mom, I was at her house last week, and she's on Baldwin Park resident. She goes to these meetings and stuff, and she started bringing up how, you know, this was the issue in Baldwin Park a few years ago. You know, places being empty for a while. You know, the old Shakey's, you know, an old supermarket, and you know, it tended to bring homeless around the area, right? So, you know, we started talking. She said, you know, she brought this up about West Covina. I guess she must pay attention to West Covina and Baldwin Park. But, you know, her issue which was, you know, it turned out to be my issue was, you know, I don't like seeing that empty lot there, right? I mean, if we're talking about the old drive time, which was a used car before, right? I never had a problem with it. Matter of fact, I might have been in there twice. I didn't buy a car or nothing, but I know we went in there twice. I don't have a problem with it being used car as long as it's not Jose's used car, you know, or Tommy's used car, some low end place. But you know, she told me it was going to be something like a drive time, like it sounded like it was going to be an enterprise. You know, we're not talking about a massage parlor here, or you know, or some place selling, you know, weed on the side of the street or something, right? And the reason I bring that up because I'm actually renting I'm leasing an office right now, and that was the first question they asked: is it a massage parlor or is it a cannabis store? I said none of the above, right? So other than that, I don't have an issue with it, you know, changing over to an enterprise. Actually, I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm not sure what's behind the whole thing, but as far as the used cars, I know there's a shortage on used cars, but you know, I definitely don't have a problem with it. I think it'd be good for the city. You know, I've lived here for quite a bit, and you know, we're losing tax revenue. It hasn't been a drive time in how long, guys? A couple years at least, right? Anybody know?
We generate 10 times of the car sales.
But right now, we're not generating any money there. It's just sitting there with nothing. Why don't you guys renting it? Why don't you guys rent that lot then? Okay. Well, that's fine. Okay. But anyway, that's all I got. I just wanted to say that. I mean, we're giving money away, right? There's nobody there right now. Why not rent it to a nice, reputable car company? Yeah, I don't know about that, but
One person at a time, please.
anyways, that's all I got, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Tuck.
Well, thank you for hearing me tonight before this group a lot. My name is Jeff Tuck. I'm here tonight to represent the owner of the properties in the West Covina Auto Plaza known as the Ford dealership, the vacant ex-Clippinger Chevrolet property, the vacant ex-Drive Time dealer, and the property on Azusa Avenue that we've currently leased to Chrysler. The item before you tonight is solely aimed at the owner of these properties to restrict and limit how his properties may be used. This action is being contemplated is completely unnecessary. The city already has ample oversight and protection on these issues. In the case of pre-owned vehicles, a dealer occupying a space in the auto plaza, the city already requires a CUP to approve such an occupancy. They have the right to determine if such a dealership would be appropriate in the auto plaza, and they can approve a first-class national operation like our proposed lease to Enterprise Car Sales and Rental while excluding undesirable operators. In regards to the filming of commercials, the city code controls the approval process completely. The number of days when filming is allowed, the number of times filming may occur each year, and the number of days between filming is limited. The code governing filming was made even more stringent last year. There is sufficient oversight to prevent abuse. What we have here is an internal disagreement amongst the owners of the 7 Auto Plaza properties, a squabble between competing property owners where one is trying to restrict the use of another. Please do not take sides and pass this proposal as one side is requesting. There have been raised questions regarding whether proper notice was given to all the members of the Auto Plaza Association about this issue. Our notice was sent to an address where we have not occupied in 5 years. Hence, we did not attend the meeting where all of this was discussed. We did not receive required notice and were not in attendance at this association meeting. Also, the agenda items listed on the notice do not accurately define the actions discussed. The first meeting was supposed to discuss reader board, sign, and budget for the year. The subject of the second meeting was to discuss an overlay zone for aesthetics and security within the district. I don't see restricting your property rights falls into either of those two categories. Nothing mentioned the restrictions of pre-owned vehicles or limiting how a property owner might use his property under existing rules and regulations. We have a tenant for the space at 1900 East Garvey Avenue South. The tenant is Enterprise Car Sales and Rentals. The applicant was wrong in saying that Drive Time went out of business. Their lease expired. Their 5-year lease expired, and they left in January. They left January 1 of 2020. Enterprise is a billion-dollar national company, and they expect to sell 100 cars per month at this location, generating significant amount of sales and tax revenue to the city. The property works perfectly for their operation. It is the only property in the area that they are interested in. They have already submitted their CUP application to the planning department. Enterprise is here tonight to express their support and interest in being located in the West Covina Auto Plaza. We ask that you do not pass what is being proposed before you tonight and either vote no or continue this matter to allow the dispute amongst the Auto Plaza Association members to be resolved by a properly noticed, fully attended, with the vote taken by all of the property owners, not just a few. Thank you.
I just had one question. Who do you represent?
The owners of the ex-Chevrolet facility, the ex-Drive Time facility, the Ford dealership property, and the Chrysler dealership on Azusa Avenue across the freeway.
Does that have a name or a company name?
Well, the company is referred to as, Azusa Roland LLC.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why I was just clarifying it.
but we own the property.
Okay, that's why I was just clarifying who's the owner. But yeah.
Next, Jen Belov. You spoke. Okay. Thomas Klingler.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me have a few minutes to speak with you tonight. I am Thomas Klingler. I work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise Holdings, we operate all the brands. I'm going to go through this packet with you. And just to give you a little bit of who we are as a company, I'm going to assume you're probably all familiar with Enterprise. Is that fair? Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Enterprise Car Sales. You've seen our commercials. You also see that we invest heavily in marketing and advertising as well. We're very much a fabric of the communities that we belong to. We're a $25 billion company that's privately held, based out of St. Louis. And if you flip to the first page, you'll see that I think what you're looking for is the improved branding, a premier location for the city for purchasing vehicles, and sales tax revenue generated off that. That our initiatives and what we bring to the table align very well with those objectives that I think you guys are looking for. Just to talk a little bit about us, I already mentioned we're a $25 billion company, almost $26 billion company. We operate 10,000 fully staffed locations in neighborhoods and airport locations. We have more than 2 million vehicles, and we have over 100,000 employees. We're the only investment-grade rental car company out there. So very financially stable, even after this pandemic here, which was, without a doubt, very challenging and tough, but we managed to weather through it quite well. On the next page, on page 3, you'll see our brands that we represent. We also represent Alamo and National. You'll see those brands at the airport quite a bit, and Enterprise, of course, and Enterprise Car Sales. Truck, Commute, also you might be familiar with as well. Who are we as a company? As I said, we're a privately held company, big company, but we didn't start out that way. We're very much a small company that got really big. Jack Taylor is the founder of the company. We are third generation Taylor family. Right now, our current CEO is Chrissy Taylor, who is Jack's granddaughter. In between there was his son, Andy, who is the CEO, and Pam Nicholson in between Andy and Chrissy. Jack flew fighter jets off the USS Enterprise, and that's where Enterprise came with its name. So he came back from the war and wanted to start a business, and that's what he did. He started out of the back of a dealership, renting about 11 cars, and we are what we are today. And what we really are today is a company of people. I've been with the company 27, this is my 28th year with the company. I've lived all over, including Northern California and in Southern California now, all over. I'm from Illinois, started in St. Louis with the company, and that's very, very normal in our company to have that much tenure and that type of people that work for us. I feel like we've stepped in it between these guys a little bit, and had the pandemic not had hit, we would probably already be operating on that parcel, because we had originally were working on this back in 2020, right as the pandemic had hit, and obviously that was a tough time to be investing in new properties. We put things like that on pause. And yet we're ready to plow forward, and we want to be a fabric of the West Covina city. I think we bring a lot to the table. In California, we have over 6,000 employees. That's on page 5. And I'm not going to read all this in essence of time, because I'm going to run out. And I just want you to know what you guys are getting with it. It's not a Bob used car sales. I think that might have been what you said. Okay. We're a professional company. Can you imagine a $25 billion company selling cars that aren't properly vetted and safety protected and doing it? We have a 109-point inspection that we go through. We have all the same equipment that we utilize on our used car to make sure that we are selling a good product. Our cars, generally speaking, are in the teens of miles, thousands of miles, to the mid-20s. That's our kind of our niche. And the reality of that property is it's going to be a used car on that parcel where drive time is, and that's where we're trying to go. It's most likely going to have to be a used car, because there is no new car dealership that's going to be able to fit on that parcel. It's definitely going to be they're selling used cars off that parcel, whether it's a new dealer who does that or an enterprise, a private company like us that has a good brand and can bring a lot to your city. I'm not going to go through the corporate responsibility in essence of time, but you can see all the initiatives we have there and the investments that we're making into the community. On page 7, you'll see the old drive time. I hate saying that, but I want it to be the enterprise car sales, and you'll see what it will look like when we move in. And then on page 8, you'll see the interior of the space as well. And then I gave you a few examples on page 9 and 10. 2 of these I've been personally involved with, the one in Santa Clara and the one on page 10, Concord location. I helped build both of those locations, and they're state-of-the-art dealerships selling used cars. So, like I said, the irony of this, we would have probably already been on this footprint had we moved ahead during the pandemic. And the bottom line, it's going to be a used car dealership that operates off that. And a lot of times, dealerships supplement their inventory with our cars. So thank you for your time. Greatly appreciate it. And I know you're very busy, so I'll let you go.
Anyone else who would like to speak against? Anyone else who would like to speak against the project? Against. Wait one moment. No one else? Okay. Will the applicant come back up to, if you'd like to rebuttal?
Yes. I just want to address one thing. The gentleman said he's talking about 4 properties. Well, really, they only have 2 properties. They might have owned 4 property as a landlord, but the property represented by New Car Franchise. We own the Chrysler Jeep store, which they have a lease with Chrysler, and the 4th store, it's owned by an owner. He's not here tonight. He basically participate on, he gave the information to Patrick, and he's not here tonight. So he's not really, they don't have a 4 stores like he presenting. It's only 2 stores, 2 empty land they have. Thank you.
Thank you.
No. No, it's...
Okay, anyone else? Or the applicant finished? Never mind. Okay, so
Even though it may be I think a $26 billion company or $6 billion company, it's still a 100-car operation a month. So each location is going to be managed by what the volume of that location is. If they're planning on selling 100 cars, it's all that other money is not necessarily going to fall into this lot. Everything that I said prior still puts us in a disadvantage when it comes to me presenting my certified 2019 Accord versus another 2019 Accord. Another thing the gentleman was saying, that a lot of times dealers supplement their used car inventories through enterprise. Correct. But at some point in time, new car dealers actually supplement an enterprise with their inventory, and then we just get them back. So that was something that was mentioned.
does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
Chair, if I may, make some clarifications regarding some of the statements that were stated during the public hearing. Okay, to clarify on Mr. Tuck's statement that he was not properly notified, the notification that he was referring to was the Auto Plaza bid business improvement district meeting. And also just to clarify, the conditional use permit for the enterprise dealers, the proposed enterprise dealership is not agendized and is not in front of the Planning Commission at this time. The gentleman that spoke representing enterprise just merely provided an example of what can accommodate that particular dealership that he's referring to, and that subject matter is not within the Planning Commission's scope or decision making at this time.
Have they requested or submitted a request for permit?
They submitted Enterprise submitted a conditional use permit application that's still currently being reviewed by staff, and it's not scheduled to be reviewed by the Planning Commission at this time yet.
Okay, so at this time we will close public hearing and we'll open for commission discussion.
staff. Joanne, I don't know if you can answer this question, but there's no changes to anything with regard to the advertising on the digital reader board, is there?
No.
Make sure.
A question for, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, as it pertains to the new vehicle franchise dealership definition in proposed section 26-737, why do we have the limitation that the dealership be selling new vehicles that have obtained permission and authority to sell vehicles as a direct agent of a major automaker? I just, obviously that is sort of the standard way of doing business. I certainly understand that, but is that something that is necessary to be codified for all time? Perhaps a new auto dealer comes up that has direct sales. I know that's obviously very taboo in the auto industry, but I'm concerned that would prohibit the potential installation of a new dealership there that had direct to consumer sales by the manufacturer. I don't know if that's something that can be potentially changed. I did want to. Actually, can you answer the question on that? If that's something that was contemplated at all?
Well, the new franchise language was included in the request letter that was submitted by the Auto Plaza bid, and staff did add a provision regarding new cars directly by the manufacturer within that language.
Right. What is the, I guess, what would be the definition of major automaker?
It would be Toyota, Mercedes, Dodge.
I mean, is there like a certain threshold of sales, or what is that?
I don't have a definition for that in the ordinance. If it would be up to the Planning Commission or the City Council, if the City Council would like to add, or the Planning Commission would like to add standards to define that, or remove that language altogether.
The applicant had mentioned that the majority of their sales are new car sales, correct? And that this would take from your business because they would opt for a used car rather than a new. So that's what your concern is, correct?
We have a 2019.
Madam Chair, would you like to open the public hearing so that the applicant can address?
Yes, we'll open public hearing.
Okay. My concern is that a 2019 Accord that's Honda certified, that's backed by the factory certified technicians, by the factory certified warranty, is not the same as a 2019 Accord sold by Enterprise, by Drive Time, by Carvana, by any other used car lot. Because the amount of reconditioning that it requires is not the same. Cost of us doing business with our technicians is higher. So the price point, if you had two same Honda Accords, one is $1,000 cheaper than the other one. On the surface, it looks like they're the same, but the reality is they're not. One of them has half of the car that was painted, and the other one is not. One of them has 4 matching tires, the other one doesn't. So my concern is that, again, putting a used car operator into a new car auto mall puts us in a disadvantage price-wise when it comes to used car sales. My store does about anywhere from 150 to 200 used cars a month. We're doing double the volume than what the applicant is proposing. So used car business is a big portion of our business. So yes,
Sorry, can you please tell me what store that is?
Norris Honda, West Covina. So, I mean, it's a big portion of our business. So if I have somebody next door that, again, is not bringing their car up to the same standards as a certified factory certified vehicle is, it puts us in a disadvantage. Our cost is higher to operate because my technicians are certified. I have to spend anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 on my certified technician for constantly to them to go to Honda school. They have to make sure that they study on all the module, on all the current recalls, equipment that we have to buy from the factory. No used car lot has the same requirements. Again, it puts us in a disadvantage.
Would you say with all the advertisement that they are doing that some of that might also go to you?
Well, the way used car business operates, if they're going to do 100 cars a month, what do you think the advertised budget will be? Maybe $300 a car if we're lucky. But the used car lot, for the most part, does anywhere from $100, maybe $150 a car. So the reality is that it's not that the Auto Plaza is going to sell more used cars. The reality is that the cars that we don't sell end up being sold by Enterprise in our case. So it's not like we're picking up more business. We're just slicing the pie with one extra slice. We're not generating any more revenue for the city. Even though it's a $6 billion or $10 billion company, each store has to be operated based on the budget and the revenue that it's going to generate. You know, if you're selling 100 cars, let's say they're going to do $2,000, $2,500 a car, you're only going to generate so much revenue. By the time you pay everything, there's only so much money they can spend on advertising.
Right.
For the most part, when that happens, we bring the traffic, and they just end up selling our traffic for the most part.
Right. I remember 30 years ago when they had the Mercedes, the Jaguar, the Mazda, and then Hummer came later. But if you went into the Jaguar store, it was like the library. It was very quiet. There was, very few people there.
Well,
I would just think that you would want something there that would generate traffic.
We would love to have a new car franchise there. Absolutely. If a Chevy store would come in, or Mazda, or Jaguar, or even Maserati store will come in, that'd be fantastic. We would love to have these people in there. The challenge, again, putting a used car operator into the new car auto mall puts us, new car franchisees, in a disadvantage because they just don't have the same requirements as we do. And that's a fact.
I don't think somebody who wants a Mercedes will go to the Enterprise. But anyways.
Mercedes sells Enterprise.
Does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
No, but I have questions for staff.
Right.
Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, public hearing open. He would like to ask you something.
And also, if I may add, contrary to common belief, CarMax sells a lot of their cars are exotic cars, like Ferraris, Lamborghinis. So many people think they make majority of their profit on mainstream cars, which is not the case. So if somebody goes onto a used car lot, even in Enterprise, they might carry a Mercedes because there are some Mercedes-Benz C-classes that are at some point were a rental. So that's irrelevant. We'll sell $50,000, $60,000 cars sometimes when we take it on trade, or we'll buy a car from the ICO. Because with the internet, that's an open marketplace. As long as it's within the area.
Right. I just meant that Mercedes has their clientele. They have their own clientele.
True.
But go ahead.
So I have a question sort of relating to how a used car dealership has impacted your business or businesses negatively. Obviously, drive time had a relatively short-lived existence in our city, and during that time, did you see a major reduction in your sales as a result of their presence there?
I'm sorry, I might answer that. You asked a question basically, what the used car impact in our franchise. Really is not the matter of a competition. We spend a lot of money to create franchise, and the factory have these franchise. And we spend a lot of money on advertising to bring people to the boulevard or to bring them to the auto mall. So the factory requires us to spend per car we sold anywhere between 400 to 600, depends on the franchise. So we sold, as a matter of fact, for so far this year. What was the number, Patrick? We sold so far this year probably in excess of 8,000 cars, a little close to 10,000 cars year to date. So we spend anywhere between 400 to 600. It depends on the franchise. So we spent $4, $5, $6 million. By the end of the year, we spent $10 million. So I appreciate the fact we're going to have an enterprise. Today I have an enterprise. Tomorrow I have Bob Used Cars. So you have an enterprise. The gentleman just said it earlier. He said they sell 100 cars. Well, if they sell 100 cars, they don't have a requirement to spend $50,000 in advertising in 100 cars. We spend $250,000 a month advertising per store. I can assure you that. So it bring a lot of revenue to the city. I mean, by us bringing a customer, revenue generated. So it put us in a disadvantage. So we bring the customer, and they leash on our business. And that's not really what the intent of the auto mall. We spend more money to be in an auto mall, in a new car auto mall. Otherwise, we'll be down the street in Azusa or something. Enterprise already have a place up in Citrus Avenue. I mean, reality is, my big concern really, it become a used car operation. It will be bad for the city. It will be bad for the business. It's bad for everybody. We spent well over $100 million to buy a franchise. So, I mean, that's if it make any sense. That's it.
Anyone else have any questions for that?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we will close the public hearing again and open discussion with the commission.
So I have a question for the city attorney. What authority does the city have to make a decision like this?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Christy Smith, for those of you who aren't familiar with me. So under the city's police powers, under the Constitution of the State of California, you have every right to regulate your land use. And this is what this would be. This is a land use regulation regarding the use of a particular property or pieces of property.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then for city staff, just to clarify, who's the owner next door to Performance Ford? Is that wasn't that Mr. Is that Mr. Alhansen's properties? Or who's the owners next door to Performance Fords, the empty lots?
The empty lots, I'm not sure of the entity, but I think you said Azusa Roland Incorporated, which I think is an entity owned by Mr. Alhassen.
Yes? Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, great. I think city staff answered it. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, great. And then, great. And then, how long has Norm V's Honda been in our city? Do we know that?
I'm not sure. I think
It's been
23 years.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great.
Christy, I have a question for you. One of the gentlemen mentioned that that lot would not be able to have a new car dealership there. Is that valid?
So I'm going to refer to staff, depending on the lot size and the requirements under the zoning code, whether or not it would meet requirements for a new car lot.
I'm sorry, size-wise. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Certainly. I'm going to refer to staff because depending on what the requirements are, and some of it may actually be the requirements of a new automaker itself as to what their requirements are. So it may or may not meet the requirements. So I'll have to refer to staff if they know that answer.
The city does allow new car dealerships in that location. It was before it was drive time. It was occupied by a new car dealership.
Which dealership was that?
It was the Hummer dealership.
Hummer.
Sure. Yeah. So the zoning does allow for new car dealerships on that site.
I just want to add, I've been a commissioners for quite a few years now, and I believe several years back, we did, as a city, spend quite a lot of money. The auto dealer may have known that the big sign, I think the city believed that by paying into that big signs, which is the city spent, I think, over, I don't know how many millions of dollars, but maybe you guys recalled. The city believed that by making that big sign or building that big sign for the auto plaza over there can help bring the city businesses and revenues. So the city did participate in building that big signs, and that was in the anticipations to help the plaza to bring in, traffic and to bring in business. I'm not sure if all the commissioners here are aware of that big signs that the city actually put the money into. I'm not sure if maybe perhaps one of the auto dealer may know about, or maybe Pauline?
Commissioner Hang, yeah, I can provide a little bit of history to that. So in 93, the Auto Plaza BID, or Business Improvement District, was established specifically to finance to create a business improvement district where all of the properties in that area were given a direct assessment, which they paid on their property tax roll, and that helped finance the reader board sign that was to advertise the dealerships within the district and to create branding and marketing for that area to help increase sales of those dealerships in the community. More recently, I think it was around 2015, 2016, that reader board, was outdated, and the city did. So the first time that it was established, I believe it was a former redevelopment agency loan in 93. In 2015, 2016, the city of West Covina lent the Auto Plaza approximately $500,000 to update the reader board sign to an LED sign. So the Auto Plaza BID is currently making payments to the city for repayment of that loan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, we've already closed public hearing. We'll open it if you would like to come up.
We're asking about the size of the lot. The original tenant that was on 1900 East Garvey property was Hummer. It was built specifically for Hummer. And Hummer sold essentially one vehicle. That's why there's extreme difficulty in finding a new car dealership that's going to go on that particular lot because it's so small. And I have gone through the gamut of new car franchises that are available, from Volvo to Maserati to Range Rover, the whole group, and have been unsuccessful either because 1900 is too small, or next door the Chevrolet spot, 1932, is too large. It's got 32 service bays underneath. I even talked to the electric car company, that I can't mention, about 1900 because it was about the right size for them, because they sell only basically one or two models. But you can't get a full line new car franchise to take that spot. And then the other new car franchises we have found so far have been uninterested in taking the Chevrolet facility because it is too large, and they're essentially all of them are taken in this area. If they are not in Glendora, they're in City of Industry, La Habra, Monrovia, etc., and they have trade limits. They can't be placed so close together. So we have struck out when City Council says, well, just go out and get a new car franchise. Well, we have tried. There aren't any out there in the midst of the economic downturn that we're in. Thank you for letting me clarify that. And I never said that we own stores. I said we own property, which is the truth.
Would the applicant like to respond?
Russ, you cannot have any new car franchise. First, you can have a new car franchise. Hummer is a new car franchise. They used to have a Clippinger there, but they weren't a great operator. This is the reason they lost it. So if they have a problem, that doesn't make it our problem, basically. It doesn't make it city problem, doesn't make it our problem. They had a new car franchise before, and they lost it in the bankruptcy. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, public hearing is closed. Any more questions? Would like to make a motion?
Well, actually,
We're gonna
let's
go
have a
commissioner
discussion
comments?
first. I think as commissioners, we should have some type of discussions regarding what how we should proceed with this this particular issue in front of us tonight. I mean, it is very difficult to change the dynamic of the whole zoning and overlay of in changing the whole land use. I think it was probably better for this situation is that I've also heard that there is a CUP that's coming up, or will be coming in front of us, and perhaps we can tie it instead of changing the zoning code to accommodate one the enterprise. Perhaps maybe we can have when the CUP is coming, the conditional use permit is coming in front of us, maybe we can decide then at that time to see, instead of changing the land use, I'm saying changing the conditional use instead. So that might be a better fit, because when you're changing a land use, which is it carries through the entire land, the entitlement will be always there. However, I'm not exactly sure changing a land use is the right way to go at this moment in time, because we are not quite sure what exactly they're going to do on that particular land. And especially there's a lot of dealers that has been pre-existing, been there for a long time. And I do like either one, push it forward to have other meetings to hear, and perhaps they also have time to discuss about the associations. I'm not aware of the associations, and I'm not privy to that. Perhaps give them more time to have these conversations to see where to proceed, and also it gives us a little bit more time for the cities to work with the current candidate to see where the conditional use permit is heading or coming, or what have you. So I think right now it's a little bit too early just to change the land use to change the land use for one company when we not exactly sure where that direction is heading. So that's, to me, is concerning. That's what I'm trying to say, is like a little concerning. I like to have more time to either one, visit this whole issue that I'm not very familiar with, and also provide the car dealers and their associations to get together and have some more talks, and then come back here on a later date, and perhaps we can tie everything in with the conditional use permit when the company is ready to submit the applications.
Commissioner Chair, if I can clarify one thing. As Joanne mentioned earlier, the noticing that was mentioned during the public comment was in regards to the Auto Plaza Business Improvement District meetings, which is it's separate from the Planning Commission application process. And so those are two separate processes and two separate meetings. So they did hold, the Auto Plaza BA did hold their annual meeting in which the overlay was brought up. We subsequently agendized on a separate meeting and discussed with the members in attendance.
Great. I have some comments. What was I going to say? And just to clarify, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Simon owns envision Audi, envision Mercedes, envision Toyota, envision Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and then we have Norms Reeves, Honda. So we have technically 6, 7 companies, and then we have 2 empty spots that's currently empty by companies associated with Mr. Al Hansen. But so if we look at count each of those businesses and add them up, you're looking at new car dealerships who are the majority existence currently in that auto plaza. And I know when I visited those stores, like when I went to go visit Mercedes and Audi and their mechanic shop across the freeway, they have invested a tremendous amount of improvement. And I know Performance Ford, which just became owners of that area that was sold by the Hidalgo family, I know they've done a tremendous amount of improvement, making that area beautified and more safer and accessible, especially for people with disabilities and accessibilities who need accessibilities. And so I would just urge the commission that you look at the current occupants and hear their voice, because at the end of the day, they are investing millions and millions of dollars into our city, and they continue to do that, and they continue to grow in our city. And that's their kindness and their compassion and their leadership speaks for themselves. Because if you add up the companies right now, we have a majority of the business owners in this room today compared to just 2 empty occupants that are next door. They're currently empty. And so I think we have to look at that. Who's here today and who's investing currently in our communities. And if you look at that, you'll see that currently Envision, Norm Rees Honda, Performance Ford are the majority owners of the brands they own in that auto strip area. And so I would just urge the commission to look at the facts of the matter and consider that owning a brand new car dealership and investing millions of dollars is a hard job. When I was 18 years old, one of the first jobs I had was working with Penske Motor Group, which is no way associated with this. But it's a tremendous amount of money that the owners have to put into their dealership, and I think we need to understand why they're here today and why they're requesting our support for this matter, because at the end of the day, you have the majority of owners here who are the current occupants and the majority ownership occupants who are currently renting those facilities and paying taxes and investing back in our communities. So I will just urge the commission to look at the current facts and it's within obviously our decision to make that vote, but also eventually go back to the city council. But so I will just urge my fellow commission members to once again look at the current facts and look at who's currently investing in our community, who's currently paying taxes, because it is a hard endeavor in the new car business. And for their leadership to continue to want to invest in our community, we shouldn't turn our backs on people who have invested tremendous amount of support for our community and are paying taxes and who are the majority occupants of that area. So thank you.
I do have a question for staff. Joanne, it seems awkward in that the commission is hearing that an entitlement was actually submitted, which hasn't come before us yet. So I guess the question I have is, the action that we take possibly this evening, how might that impact that entitlement that's already been submitted to the city?
The entitlement will go through the normal conditional use permit process. Currently, staff is reviewing the application for completeness. It all depends on where the city is in the process of this code amendment, zone change, and when the zone change is going to be in effect, and also when the when the conditional use permit is going to be scheduled for planning commission review and consideration.
Brian, going back to what you said about, I think you're correct. We think, and I don't remember the Envision for their support of our city, but they're, I believe on both sides, they are supporters of the city. And it's very interesting that one actually is the landlord of the other. So, but I do agree with Sheena that maybe we need a little bit more time to get more familiar with this. I'd like to make a motion to continue.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to continue.
Second the motion.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
No.
Commissioner Hing?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lewis?
No.
Chair Becerra?
Aye.
I guess motion passes 3-2.
May I have, before we finish, clarification? So are you continuing it to a certain time period, or are you just continuing it off calendar with giving direction to staff as to when to bring it back?
We can continue this or tie it together with the CUP that was coming in.
I think that's a conflict. I think we should bring this back at the next meeting. We shouldn't put two things together because then we're going to create a conflict. I don't think that's wise.
This zone change and code amendment cannot be tied to the conditional use permit. That's a separate application process. So
okay, then
not be tied.
We just continues to another day.
Do it for the next planning commission on September 14th.
Is there a specific direction that the planning commission would like to staff to look into for the reason for the continuance?
For now, for the building, the building is vacant.
There's 2 vacant properties.
So the properties are vacant. So at this point, is there any hazards to keeping them vacant?
I think one of the items included in the overlay zone was lighting to increase security during the evening.
Not sure that lighting will do the trick, but if we could get more information on, are we willing to let it stay vacant for how long?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
How long are we willing to let it stay vacant?
I think the drive time has been vacant for over a year. The Clippinger Chevrolet, it's been, I think, over 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
And I'm just thinking about, the look of the street, and aesthetics. How does it look to have that area looking like it is?
Well, I know on a marketing perspective, when you have 2 empty lots completely blacked out and you have the other ones lit up, then when it comes to passing cars, that kind of, in a marketing perspective, that's bad. So having them lit up is not only a security issue, but also a marketing aspect to that, I believe.
Well, maybe we can.
And also to clarify, regarding the Planning Commission's decision, the Planning Commission also has the option to deny the request and recommend denial to the City Council, and the Planning Commission also has an option to strike certain language in the draft amendment, code amendment, like if the Planning Commission would like to allow for car dealerships that sells used cars through a conditional use permit process, that can also be added to the Planning Commission recommendation to the City Council.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part, Joanne?
The Planning Commission also has the option of adding or striking out certain languages in the draft code amendment if the Planning Commission would like to allow or add provisions to allow a used car dealership in the draft code amendment for the overlay zone. the Planning Commission also has that option to direct staff to revise the code amendment to add for used car dealerships or car rental as well.
I think if I'm made, I think it's really important that you really clarify for staff as to what it is when you're continuing it, they're looking at to bring back, so that way when they come back, it's not the same issue, so to speak. It's like, it's what you're specifically asking them to do, so they can come back with that additional information that you're requesting. So I don't know that, and staff can tell me, no, they've got it, or let you know that they need a little bit more information as to why the continuance and what you are expecting them to come back with.
So I would, so just to clarify, are we going to bring this back at the next meeting?
September 14th.
September 14th. Okay,
That's
great.
where we wanted clarification.
Okay, well, I know one of the things I'll urge my commission members is that, and an applicant, I think maybe you guys could do a PowerPoint and show your background to our community and show the background of the businesses you own in our community. I think that would be helpful.
Actually,
that's my comment.
It would be helpful to have staff to outline for us, again, if we choose to recommend to the council to go forward with the overlay zone for the auto plaza, limiting it to new car sales, what would the ramifications be for the current entitlement that was submitted to the city? And we'd also like to know, when was that entitlement submitted? And when was the timeline when this request for the overlay zone came in?
And also, it's possible, I, for myself, is not very familiar with the auto zone and the businesses over there, and I understand that it's a whole strip of pretty much take a whole chunk of our freeway, you can say. And I like to be able to talk with the dealer, actually. There are not that many of them, to see, what the impact, that would be my interest, to see how much impact will that be to their businesses if the zoning changed. So that if the business can reach out to us and if we can meet up with them to have some questions, because I don't really know a whole lot about this business, and I like to know what the impact would be. Besides the 5 minutes that they have here, I mean, you can either contact the city or set up some meetings for all the commissioners to actually have an understanding of what that huge, the auto plaza means to our community, and also the impact in terms of the changes the zone have any, and then we can go from there. I understand that used car is also important nowadays. It is, people are buying used car because of the economies. That is a huge impact as well to our community, and it's also a good, it's good for the resident. I'm not saying that this is completely blocked out the used car business. And in fact, the car dealer do have used car business as well. I just want to understand how much impact by us making a decisions, one impacting the other. Right now, I just don't know. I don't know enough about the dealerships. I don't know enough about what our decisions will impact everyone that's involved.
I agree, and also the fact that the applicant mentioned that it does take away from their business. So drive time has been out since January. Have they had, when they first arrived, what impact did that have on their sales? And since they've been gone, has it had have they increased? And of course, at this time, it's hard to say because of COVID to have accurate, numbers. But that would be also interesting to know as well.
I think we have clarification, so we'll come bring it back or continue the item to the September 14th meeting.
I had one more thought.
Oh.
I wanted to interject. as it pertains to the lighting issue. You know, most of the showrooms, at least what I've seen, are lit up. The ones that are occupied are lit up, even in the. I'd like to see some language that would require that even the vacant showrooms are lit up, just so there's uniformity throughout the evening hours at the very least.
Also, this might give both parties a chance to perhaps maybe talk about, I heard talk about the advertisement and the filming and whatnot. Maybe there can be some kind of compromise where the applicants and maybe Enterprise can, in their advertisement, can generate business for the applicant as well. That way it would be beneficial for them.
Maybe we could force them.
Sorry. So we'll motion for the next meeting.
September 14th, we'll bring it back. Continue.
I have a question for the city attorney. Is the commission allowed that under the staff presentation to look at the history of that auto zone, that staff could bring back a history timeline on the background of that whole strip, that whole auto zone area? Are we allowed to go back in history and look at?
Sorry. Yes, staff in their presentation can give you the background of the auto center. Or you'd at least have the, like you said, the history and the background, so you know what's been going on and how long it's been there.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of history there, and I think it's important that the commission and the community know about it. So thank you.
Paulina, since we're going to be continuing this to the next commission meeting, after that, the matter will be taken to City Council for final, correct?
Well, it depends on
if we pass or not. Got it.
I think, yeah, either way, if it's recommended for City Council approval or declined, it will go to the City Council.
Okay. Right. I believe we are done with item number 3. Thank you, gentlemen. Paulina, who will be representing the next staff report? Are we doing item number 2?
Sorry, Assistant Planner Camelia Martinez will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So this item is a continuation from a previous meeting in regards to subdivision of 2 properties into 6 lots. So I'm going to kind of glance over the first few slides because you've seen them already, but we'll get more into the last slides in regards to the additions we've done at your request. The applicant is TDK Marsh Investment LLC. The addresses for these properties is going to be 642 and 704 East Francesquito Avenue. They are both zoned single-family residential. This aerial shows you the 2 lots together, and then the proposed lot 1 and proposed lot 2. Oh, I'm sorry, not proposed. These are the existing lot 1 and existing lot 2. These are the proposed lots. So lot 1 right here in orange, lot 2, lot 3, lot 4, lot 5, and lot 6. As previous questions from the public, they were concerned about where the proposed driveways would be if a subdivision were to be approved. So these arrows are indicating potentially where new driveways would be located for new single-family dwelling homes. So these are the outlines once again. Indicated in these red areas, these are the areas that are going to be demolished to meet our development standards once the lots are subdivided, because the buildings are too close to the property lines, either exceeding it or are just too close to meet our standards. These 3 circles at the top are the current driveway easements for the existing dwellings. As a condition of approval, we are requiring them to be removed and the curb to be closed up again because they will no longer serve as a primary driveways for the new lots. So for 642 East Francesquito Avenue, this is the site plan as it currently is. These 2 green dots are the 2 trees proposed to be removed because of the implementation of the new proposed driveway. And indicated in red is current chain link fencing and a block wall that needs to be removed because we do not allow for chain link fences to be in the front yard. And also the block wall section to the south needs to be removed because it doesn't meet our front yard wall setbacks and requirements. This is a more accurate site plan. In green is the new proposed landscaping. Some of it's there, but this is going to be considered the new front yard of 642 East Francesquito. In gray, we have is the new proposed driveway, which is why the 2 proposed trees need to be removed. In yellow is the new home after it's been reduced. And in blue is the existing detached 3-car garage that's not going to be altered. The new proposed home is going to be 1,574 square feet. So this is the west elevation, and I've only showed for this slide the elevations that is relevant to the subcommittee for design review because they only review elevations that are visible from the street. The rest of the elevations is part of the entire plans that were submitted to you. Indicated in red here is the new brick that's going to be added because that is a requirement of the subcommittee for design review to have some sort of alternate material other than stucco for homes that are being reviewed under the subcommittee. And we also required them to put 2 new windows on this elevation because currently there isn't any. But this is going to be the new front elevation visible from the street, we wanted windows to look more appealing and to indicate that it is the front of the house. For the second property, 704 East Francesquito, indicated in red is the removal of the same thing, a block wall, a section of a block wall and an existing chain link fence. These 2 trees are going to be removed for the same reason as well, for the proposal of the new driveway. In green, we have the new landscaping. In gray, the new driveway. In orange, the new reduced home. And in blue, although there's an existing 2-car garage, it has to be only really 1 wall is going to remain, and the rest is going to be altered to meet our setbacks. So practically, that garage is going to be brand new as well, and that's a 2-car garage. So this home is going to be 2,222 square feet. Same thing as the previous property. This is the east side elevation, then this is the only elevation that's going to be visible from the street. And this house actually has existing brick veneer, and we're requiring that they add that brick veneer to their new front elevation as well. This table that you've seen before is showing you the city's requirements for any subdivisions within that area district. And it's indicating that with the new proposed subdivisions, it will meet all the minimum requirements for depth, width, and minimum lot size. Staff is recommending approval for Tinted Tract Map 1801 and the mitigated neg deck, and also to approve Subcommittee for Design Review 21-46 and 21-47, as well as tree removal permit 21-09 and 2110. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, and the applicant is also here should you have any questions for them as well.
At this time, we'll open public hearing. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come forward?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Lam. I'm the project manager.
You know what? We can't hear you. You think you could speak into the microphone? Great.
I'm Kevin Lam. I'm the project manager for TDK Mars Investment, LLC. And the previous meeting, I was here, and then the commission asked us to provide more detail on the current house, that how we're going to do the driveway and how it's going to be demolished. And we work with the city staff, and we provide all the information that took us almost 3 months to complete. And we're here right now, and we're asking you to please look at the requirement that we all met and consider that the thing that we have done so far. And I really appreciate my time to be here and present this project to you. Do you have any question I can answer? I'm here.
Do we have any questions for applicant?
I think my only question that I had was pertaining to the 704 property, and just its honestly, it's the existing house on that property is just in an unfortunate location in terms of how it's oriented. I mean, it's sort of off to the side, and effectively how it's going to be redone. It's not really going to have a front yard. It's not really going to have a backyard. It's sort of going to have this sort of corner yard, and it's I don't know, from my perspective, it looks very much like an afterthought. And I guess, obviously, I think from my perspective, I'd like to see your project go through. I really see the issue with that house, and whoever ultimately owns that house is going to have to deal with this very oddly located home. And I mean, obviously they're coming to it, so I guess, willing buyer, willing seller. But I just think that if we're going into this and we're the planning commission and we're condoning this, that's my biggest concern about it. I understand that red spot is cut off. My question is, I just don't. I guess I just don't understand the orientation of that house on that property, particularly if it's going to be maintained there. I frankly, I kind of wish you would just start over on that property, and then this would be a no-brainer. But from my perspective, I think that's one of the big issues I see is just how that it doesn't have a backyard. It doesn't really have a front yard, and it's just sort of a very oddly located home, and that's my issue with it.
May I answer your question?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So lot 5 and lot 6, I believe once we cut off the red area, those houses will have a front lot and a backyard too, and it's really big. The lot of those two houses, they are over 20,000 square feet, and it may look small right now from our, drawing and whatever is up there. It looks small, but it's really big for a 20,000 square feet lot. And the yard, the 25 feet front yard, and the somewhere between 30 to 40 square feet of the backyard. That's not too many houses in West Covina have it. And I would like to have the home, the lot number 5, 6, in the center position. But, sometimes we have to work with it and to get to the minimum requirement by the city. So that's how
Can I ask where's the garage?
Garage for lot number
6.
Number 6.
It's right here in this section. The existing two-car garage is going to be altered to meet setbacks.
Okay, so that will be gone, and where will it be replaced at?
So they're literally moving the walls 5 feet south. So the structure is going to be relatively in the same location, but the walls are going to be moved 5 feet.
Well, in order to make it, okay, so where's the front of the house?
Existing, the front of the house is right here, near this U-turn. But the new front yard, the front of the house is going to be right here.
Okay, so maybe we can suggest to put that garage to the right of the house so it at least centralizes it.
Where is the garage going?
Let me show you the site plan. So this is the new lot size. This is the new proposed home, and then this is the new remodeled two-car garage to the rear of the property.
So let me.
On the right?
Is that lot 6?
Yeah.
Yes, this is lot 6.
Okay, go back to the other map now.
So they're going to become reverse.
Show me the other map again. Let's see. Lot 6. Where's lot 6? Oh, it's down there. Okay.
So it's got
So it has its own.
5 feet from the side on the left. The garage right now is in the back. The front is being cut off for more of a front yard.
Mm-hmm.
How about that garage that's in the back? If you were to move it to the right of the house to make it look centered, and it's just an idea.
May I address that? Actually, that lot number 6, the garage, the red area, actually, the garage is an oversized garage. Actually, that part being cut off right now has a kitchen and a bathroom. That was permitted by the city. So now we just have to demolish that section of the garage, the kitchen and the bathroom right there. So the garage will be will make the setback. So we don't have to literally, move the garage from here and put it right there. No, this is like only, demolish that little section about 5 feet, so we have enough room for the side setback.
Can you put the plan back in?
Those are big lots. If you look on Zillow and the real estate website, you can see that the average.
Okay, so let me.
EM home is about 9,000 square feet with the land.
So let me try to understand this. Currently, the blue section is the smaller version of the garage, but the existing garage is a little bit bigger. Basically, it will touch the property line to the side, which is on top. So you're not really doing anything to the garage per se, but making it a little bit smaller because it's oversized right now, so that we can still have the 5 feet setback from the side.
That's right.
And it's an existing garage right now.
It's just an existing garage, yes.
Okay. So you would have the driveway come along the back so they can park in their garage?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, the orientation right now, the current orientation is that the car coming in and they have to make a U-turn and into the garage.
Mm-hmm.
But with the new proposal, the car coming this way and just make a right turn into, it's really, just the right orientation with the new lot that we propose.
Mm.
Anyone have any more questions?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone for the project would like to speak?
Someone there to the right.
Anyone opposed?
Someone there to the right.
Chair. If you could kindly fill out a speaker card when you're done.
Yes, good evening. Rachel Ortiz. I'd like to say the lot that you're talking about, 6, I live right behind it. So I just need to know how it's going to impact my house, because depending on that driveway that they're making room for, how close is it going to be to my backyard or to the side of my house? Right now, there's a big, that, like you said, that lot is huge. And so their backyard is, I don't know how many feet from my house. But now with that remodel taking place, it's going to be a lot closer. And we don't want to be hearing cars coming in and cars going out, because we don't hear that now.
All right.
Okay, it's okay.
Excuse me.
But
Excuse me.
I have a question. What's currently separating your house from their house? Is there a wall there or
A chain link fence.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, your name is?
Chain link fence, but it's their backyard. There's no driveway or
Excuse me.
cars going through.
Your name is Rachel?
Yes.
Okay, and you're opposed to it?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, depending how close it's going to be to our, area.
Okay. Let's answer that question. Can you, on that map right there, from the driveway, that grass section is, how many feet is it?
I can't scale it on this computer. I would have to scale it on the plan. So if you just give me 2 minutes, I'll take a look at that for you.
Joanne's looking at the plans. Joanne's looking at the plans.
Rachel?
Rachel, I'm sorry.
Commissioner would like-
Are you across the street from there or?
Right behind. No, I'm right behind.
So you're on the behind. Can you show me the map that has all the
See
breakup?
the green grass right here is right under it. That's her house, I believe.
The other map.
Can you show me the parcel map with all the new proposed parcels? So I think that proposal is fine.
Is this the map?
Okay. So you're on the left of lot 5?
No.
Where am I?
He's behind.
Lot 6.
Oh, I see it now. Okay. Where you're behind? Okay, I see it. You're behind lot 6. Okay, you have a pool, right? Okay, perfect. I found you. Okay, now show me the other map again. I'm sorry. Show me the lot 6 change. Oh, I see. Okay, I see it now. So they're gonna move the driveway to the opposite side of the house. Correct? Yeah, okay. Now I have a question, which I'm not implying nothing, but let's just say the occupant was willing to put maybe a solid wall there, or maybe a wall that you can mutually agree on, and the commission was to recommend that part of the conditions of approval. Do you think a solid wall and maybe some cypress trees that actually give you privacy will be beneficial to you? Those are the tall trees that are green and beautiful. Are they called cypress? Do you guys know? What's that tree called? Cypress trees? Yeah, cypress trees are the beautiful green trees, and when they're combined, it creates a solid privacy wall for you, and then maybe the applicant will be willing to make a solid wall instead of a chain link fence. You think that's something that, if we were to consider, that's something that would be beneficial to you?
That may be.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Because I know a solid wall will actually eliminate a lot of noise, for sure. Yeah, especially with the greenery. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
We can't.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, that's a condition that we cannot add to the application for the track map.
I was just a general question.
Okay.
And then I would like to ask the applicant if he's willing to do that on his own recongruence, his own willingness, if he's willing to do that. So
I believe that would be something that would be taken, that could be accomplished through the subcommittee review when the application is presented to them.
Paulina, did we get a number on the footage? Joanne?
So just to clarify, we're just voting on parcels right now?
Yes, correct. Just great.
So there'll be another time when we come back for the actual construction?
No, so before you tonight is the subdivision track map to subdivide the parcels into the 6 lots. As part of a request by the commissioners was to see how those 2 single-family homes are going to be impacted by the areas they had to be demolished. And so...
so are we voting to demolish stuff and build stuff, or are we just voting for parcel maps?
Parcel maps.
To clarify, the subcommittee design review is part of the application packet. So that is also subject to planning commission review. However, the subcommittee design review only takes into account how the project is going to look like as seen from the street.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to clarify, if I was to make a ask the applicant for a thing like that, this project will be brought to us back eventually, right?
No.
So we're voting on them demolishing and redoing their parking lot today?
That's a condition of their approval, that they have to demolish.
So it's part of this. So why couldn't I ask the applicant that part of that condition that a solid wall goes up if they're redoing their whole driveway?
The condition of approval to demolish portions of the property, there is a nexus to the track map approval because their current structure crosses the property lines. However, there would be no nexus to the track map approval to require, if it is approved by the Planning Commission, to require a wall or landscaping.
But you're saying
we're kind of cramping everything into one, and I think it's...
Give me 1 sec. So we can actually deny the project to subdivide 6. However, we cannot ask for a wall to be built. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
It's not making sense.
It can't. This is the tentative track map is an entitlement. It can be denied or approved. However, if you're going to be denying the tentative track map, you should only be denying it based on whether or not it complies with city standards. So you can't deny it because you can't condition it for them to put a wall up.
So city attorney, does the law say the planning commission cannot recommend a wall?
You have to have
I am unfamiliar with that law. So is there a law that says that we can, as a conditional use, as a condition of approval, that because they're moving their driveway completely to the opposite side and redoing their home, they're technically asking the planning commission to approve the redesign of their home at the same time of approving parcels. So why couldn't we ask, or why can't I make a motion that part of their conditional be that they build a solid wall with cypress trees?
So what's before you is a subdivision map. And so you have to not only follow the municipal code regarding the design, the guidelines for the subdivision map, you also have to follow the Subdivision Map Act. So what then ties you into where's the nexus to require the wall? Because when you're talking about A subdivision, it's only drawing lines and creating legal descriptions. So that's what's limiting. So you're very, very limited on what conditions you can impose on a subdivision map. And that's per the Subdivision Map Act. Okay. So that's
I understand the parcel separation, but why are we combining the construction of the home at the same time?
So the second issue is because the two existing residential structures are crossing new property lines, which Subdivision Map Act does not allow, and probably the municipal code doesn't allow. You don't have a building straddling property lines. So in order to accomplish that aspect of the Subdivision Map Act, you have to demolish a portion to move those structures away to comply with the different setback and to be able to create the lines, the lot lines. So what
happens if the applicant's willing to allow that condition of approval, that condition to be part of their approval?
So,
and if they were to change their mind, then it has to come back to the commission.
Yeah, it's usually because it's not tied to it. It's hard to get it to be tied to it. You can get them to say, "Yeah, I'm willing to do that. I was going to do that anyway," but you can't make it as a condition. Okay, and so you can't. If they decide not to do it, you can't enforce them to do it because you can't make it as a condition. I don't know what your municipal code says about walls and fences and what you have to do in connection between the property lines. So you may already be covered that way. If between, now that you've created a different line, so is that now the front yard, side yard?
You don't know what it says? That's not a good word.
I'd have to look it up real
quick. That's not good to say.
I refer to the planning stuff as far as but that may be another mechanism that already exists to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Actually, may I add something? I'm not 100% sure, but I think in the city of West Covina, when you're building a new home, they may ask for a new block wall. I don't think chain link fence is allowed anymore. But that's, like I said, I'm not 100% sure, Joanne. I don't know if we can, perhaps we can revisit this later. But I do want to go back to the Google map earlier. Can you pull that Google map out regarding the streets and the neighbor's driveway? There you go. Okay. Okay, so let me try to understand this correct. So from the driveway to the resident's home, to the property line next to the resident's home is about 40 feet away. And then the drive on top of is that where just the green area, or the driveway and the green area is 40? So just the landscaping area is 40 feet plus the driveway, which is how many feet is that? It looks like about another 18 feet. So 40 plus about 18, so you're talking about 60 feet or so away from the house. Mm-hmm. However, if you look on the south side of the current resident and the resident on the other side, the driveway is about, I'm just guessing, the homeowner may know, it looks about possibly 15 feet right down the south, further down, right there. Yes. Okay, so can you measure the neighbor's driveway right now to the other neighbor's driveway, which is the third house? So we're looking at about 15 feet, another 15 feet, so it's about 30 feet away from, each driveway is about 30 feet away from each other's house. So you have... So basically, on the other side of the house, they do have 40 feet plus the driveway, which is another 18 feet or so, versus the existing on the south side of the driveway, they have about 30 feet from the house, between those two houses on the south. From the
home to the home, and then the driveways in between.
Yeah, there's a black car right there, and then to the next house south. So that is about, you say about 30 feet. Those two driveways.
I'm sorry, I don't. These two driveways right here.
Yes.
They're individual driveways.
I understand that, but the distance is about. I just wanted to see how far from the house is that. So we're looking about possibly about 30 feet from each other, the house.
Oh, these two homes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Can you do a measurement? Thank you.
25, 26?
So 25, 26. So on the other side, they have a good 40 feet of grass area, and then on top of that, you have another 18 feet of concrete driveway area. So a total about 60 feet from the existing house to the south. Is that accurate?
So there's plenty of space in between.
Oops. Sorry. If we were to ask that, if I was to ask that this be brought back to allow the homeowner and the neighbor, the adjacent neighbor, to work out some sort of agreement at the time of our next meeting, is that something I could is allowed to be motion?
I think the gentleman already waited 3 months. Let's try to make a decision tonight.
Okay. I have.
Now,
ask
obviously, to divide the properties, you're going to probably have a fence there, correct, between the two properties?
Can we open up? Okay. Is public comment still open? Are we still open for public comment?
Well, we haven't.
Just I can ask him a question.
Do you want to come
We
up
still-
forward? Thank you.
Okay, I had a question for you. And I'm not saying this is in no way are I'm implying or forcing you to do something, but I'm just asking. Are you willing to work it out with the neighbor to build a brick wall and make an agreement between you both?
Yes.
To make things good?
Yes. Actually, on the last meeting, I met with a neighbor. I told her that we're willing to take out the chain link fence and put in the block wall. And we're willing to do that. But whether, the staff want to put in the condition or not, we're still willing to do that to make the neighbor happy. And actually, it's good for our house, too. Because right now, the chain link is something we don't like. And we would like to make a block wall, but we need a permit for block wall, those things, so.
Okay,
so
sounds
actually,
good.
we're 100% for it.
Great, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
That answered my question as well. So
I would like to make a. Oh, you want to close public comment first?
Okay, we'll close public hearing. Does anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve. This is number 2, right? Okay. So I would like to make a motion to approve tentative track map number 18-01, TTM 74976, subcommittee for design review number 21-46 and 21-47, the tree removal permit number 21-09 and 21-10, and the mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact for applicant TDK Marsh Investment LLC.
A second?
I'll second that. And I also like to add that I like the fact that the owner is willing to step up and take care of the issues between the neighbors regarding the block wall. At the end of the day, you are getting 6 lots. And I really appreciate that to really make the neighbors, happy. You really only have 2 neighbors to the south. So that really make a big difference. And you are adding on to West Covina. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for fulfilling everything that we asked you at the last meeting. We appreciate your efforts.
Okay, I have a motion seconded by.
I have a comment I wanted to interject. One of the things that is being proposed by this motion is that we are effectively it seems waiving the subcommittee design review subcommittee process, and that's going to be taking place here tonight. One of the things that I brought up previously is I had a concern about how how lot 6, particularly the frontage of the property, is dealt with. You have a very oddly shaped house that is awkwardly located on the lot. Ultimately, I understand. I understand the developer probably wants to save the money there, in terms of not having to wholesale demo this house in order to put a new development on there. The issue that I see is that from my chair, this house does not in any way fit into the neighborhood contextually, which is one of the required findings that we would have to make. And so what I think we could do to rectify that is, instead of having the garage in the rear as is proposed, we could require that the garage be placed or oriented, I believe it would be turned 90 degrees to the left and then moved such that it is in the, I would say, the bottom left-hand corner of the lot, as on the PowerPoint presentation there, such that it is designed in congruence with the rest of the lots, where the garage is in the back of the property, visible from the street, like every other house in that neighborhood. I think that is contextually in line with what's already pre-existing in that neighborhood. And again, I think the house is going to be utterly awkward, and assuming it's sold, I think it's not going to sell for as high of a value, but who knows? In this market, I guess anything goes for any amount of money. But my perspective is, I think that should be a condition of approval, and unless that is a condition for approval, I will be voting no on this particular project because of that.
Okay, so we have 2 motions already. Paulina, can you poll, please?
Yes. I have a motion and seconded to approve Resolution 21-6075 and Resolution 21-6074. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Aye.
Commissioner Hing? Vice Chair Lewis?
No.
Chair Bracero?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, final action to this matter will be taken at a public hearing before the City Council on a date to be determined. Paulina, there's one more item?
Yes.
Who will be presenting that?
Planning Manager Joanne Burns will present the staff report.
That is item number 4, correct?
Correct.
I'll be checking out. I have another meeting to go to. So, thank you guys.
So, good evening. Again, Chair Becerra and also members of the Planning Commission. The item before you was initially considered by the previous Planning Commission. They held a study session on February 25th. The code amendment before you was initially considered by the previous Planning Commission, through which they initially discussed in a study session on February 25th, 2020, and in meetings on April 28th, 2020, and on July 24th, 2020, they recommended approval of the draft ordinance to the City Council. The City Council then reviewed the draft ordinance and forwarded the ordinance back to the Planning Commission for revision. Since then, the City Council the membership has changed, and also the Planning Commission membership has changed. On the August 4th, 2020 City Council meeting, the City Council did not like the fact that there were limitations to the size of non-habitable bonus rooms written in the ordinance. Non-habitable bonus rooms written in the ordinance. And with that, one of the items that the staff would like the Planning Commission to consider changing is to eliminate the language regarding non-habitable bonus rooms in the draft ordinance. The initial intent of creating standards for non-habitable bonus room is to allow recreation rooms. So this can, and because there was a confusion between the difference between non-habitable bonus rooms and non-habitable accessory buildings or structures from the public when the ordinance was presented initially, to eliminate that confusion and to make it more in line with each other. Staff is proposing that language regarding non-habitable bonus rooms be eliminated and recreation rooms simply be added to the list of examples of non-habitable accessory buildings or structures. Another change that staff is proposing the Planning Commission to consider is to delete garages from being included in the maximum unit size calculation. This has been brought up in a previous meeting by both the Planning Commission and the City Council when a certain conditional use permit application was being reviewed by both Planning Commission and City Council. The third change that staff would like the Planning Commission to consider is to increase the height of detached garages and storage sheds within the rear yard. The required rear yard is 25 feet from the area within 25 feet from the rear property line, and within the rear yard, the maximum height is 15 feet. If a structure is taller than 15 feet, the required setback would be 25 feet from the rear property line. So staff is recommending that this be changed to 20 feet in height with a director's review, which accounts for director's determination that the structure is compatible with the surrounding areas and the structure is at least 10 feet away from a neighboring house and also at least 10 feet away from a neighboring pool. The fourth change that staff would like the Planning Commission to consider is to reduce the side and rear setback requirements for garages and storage sheds to 4 feet. This is consistent with the required setbacks for ADUs. I'd like to go over the proposed changes to the proposed changes written in the code amendment that was initially reviewed by both the previous Planning Commission and the City Council at the earlier meetings. The first change was requiring on-site parking for additions greater than 300 square feet. So this was brought up because of the new ADU laws a lot of residents are requesting for garages to be converted into accessory dwelling units, and so they would no longer have garages on their property. And in addition to that, they are able to add bedrooms, expand their house without having the garage, even if it is required in the code, because the code does not have a trigger stating that they would have to comply with the garage requirement if they add so-and-so square feet. So in this proposal, the 300 square feet would be the trigger to require a 2-car garage on the property if they are adding onto the house. A definition and changes to the driveway and maximum driveway width has also been added. Currently, the maximum driveway width is the width of the garage plus 12 feet. However, if somebody converts their their garage into an accessory dwelling unit, then there would not be, essentially the code would not allow a driveway. And so the property owners who convert their garage into accessory dwelling units still need area to park their vehicles. So this would allow the minimum driveway width to be 20 feet, or the maximum driveway width to be 20 feet if there is no garage on the property. 20 feet. I'll go over the language and show you the language in the other slide. This is just a summary. And then the third language is to clarify that second-story setbacks clarify the second-story setback requirement for habitable structures. I'll go ahead and go over that in detail later on. So this is the language is what was previously included in the draft ordinance that was reviewed by both the Planning Commission and the City Council at the earlier meetings. The 300 square feet is the trigger to require homes to have garages or carports. Yes.
Quick question. Does this potentially, to the extent that this deals with accessory dwelling units, or does it not?
It's not, okay, so it does address some issues that accessory dwelling units have brought up. However, it's not in the accessory dwelling unit section, and it does not pertain to allow whether or not, it does not address whether or not the city would allow accessory dwelling units based on these code changes, but it does address issues that are brought up by accessory dwelling units.
So to the extent that someone proposes an accessory dwelling unit and it's approved and it's over 300 square feet, at that point in time, if it's not in conformance, if the property is no longer in conformance with the required off-street parking, then we can require additional parking?
No, not for accessory dwelling units. So
that's specifically exempted from that.
This is specifically for adding an addition to a house. Like for instance, if somebody converts an existing garage into an accessory dwelling unit, and then that's finaled, it gets permitted and finaled, and then later on they want to add 300 square feet to their house, then they would have to build another garage.
Understood. Okay. All right. I follow now.
But let me ask you this, though, Joanne. This seems like it's a back door to a problem that is existing due to the fact that there is the conversion of the garage. Let's just say let's just hypothetically, someone is converting the garage today to an accessory dwelling unit, and they no longer have a garage right now. That becomes an accessory dwelling unit. Later on, let's just say a year down the line, they said they want to need a little bit bigger room and they want to add more than 300 square foot to their house. Then you're asking them to add a garage in order to add more than the 300 square foot. Now, how is that possible if you don't plan ahead of time? if they convert, because normally the garage is toward the front of the house or toward one side of the house or what have you. If you converted that already to a living space, then how is that owner possible to add any more addition to their room if they cannot do that? Is there a way that we can find and work with the homeowner? And how would they know? Because at this moment in time, they may not think about adding to their house. And they just automatically converted their garage, which they could have. Let's say if the homeowner knows about it, they could leave the garage the way it is because they have to, and then add on to the back of it. But by code, we can't say that to the homeowner right now because of the state law governing the ADU.
Well, I was going to say, I think what is the net effect of this is that if someone has the foresight to read this in advance, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and add on to my property, and then I'm going to convert my garage into an ADU. Right. And those are the smart people, and then everyone else is not the most intelligent person on the face of the planet because they didn't know that we decided to draft this. So you can't do it. Basically, the chicken comes before the egg in this scenario, but the egg can't come before the chicken effectively.
But that doesn't mean the ADU will be approved. If the house exceeds the limit of the square footage, then the ADU would not be approved, correct?
We can't deny the ADU.
Can't deny it,
Right.
It also means that if they do add the 300 square feet or whatever they want to add before converting the garage into the ADU, it also limits them from doing anything else in the future as well.
The message is, do your expansion first, then do the ADU, and then
But also, Joanne, let me ask you this though, because the ADU regarding the garage conversion, most typical garage is only 400 square foot. However, let's say that someone just converted the garage, like the example I give earlier. Someone just converted the garage today and it's 400 square foot. They can come back and say, you know what, I want to expand my ADU 400 square foot for 1,200 square foot because by state law, they can actually go maximum 1,200 square foot. So ultimately, they can still add that without giving the city, which is what this code is doing, is to asking for a garage. So is there another incentive that we can come up with, be creative to say, hey, look, guys, if you give us a garage, you have the ADU plus some.
But what is happening, whether or not you guys look at design network, people are buying lots that are 5,000 or 7,000 square feet with an existing house. They are demolishing the existing house. They are putting in a porte-cochere, which is on one side, which allows for parking of 4 vehicles. Then they're actually building a basement and then adding 2 stories.
Wait, say that again?
There are communities right now in Southern California where people are buying 5,000 or 7,000 square foot lots with existing houses. They are demolishing the house. On one side, they are putting in a porte-cochere that allows them to park 4 vehicles. Then they're coming back and building a basement and then adding 2 stories.
Okay, that's pretty creative, but but I'm just saying, I'm okay. Let's go back to the 300 square foot limitations. I felt like, despite the fact that we are trying to encourage garage, it appears like this code is trying to encourage more people to have garages and build garages and what have you. However, it seems like it doesn't seem to work based on the fact that the garage currently, even with the conversion, is 400 square foot. They can come back and add 800 square foot, whether it's to the house, call it an ADU, or well, they have to call it an ADU because they can't call it the main house. But how you name it, at the end result is that their house can still ultimately increase another 800 square foot without giving the city a garage. So how is that helping us by... I'm not sure what we're trying to do here.
I don't know, it just sounds like we need to have an internal policy that says we're not going to tell people to do one before the other.
I think you may have given it away, Commissioner.
That's pretty much the best that I can come up with.
And that's, if I may, Chair Becerra, it's, the intent is to get your feedback and comments on the wording of these items tonight, and then we can bring it back to you.
I actually like to visit the height limitations. I'm not quite getting that portion. Joanne, can you kind of go through that again regarding the heights? I think the changes of it's from 16 feet to 20 feet. Is that?
Yes. While currently right now for garages and I don't have a diagram, but currently right now for garages and storage sheds, storage sheds over 7 feet in height, because storage sheds at 7 feet are allowed to go right on the property line. So currently for garages and storage sheds over 7 feet in height, the required setback is 5 feet within the rear yard, assuming that the maximum height is 15 feet. However, if the maximum height increases, the maximum height proposed is increased to something higher than 15 feet, then the required setback increases to 25 feet. So the proposal or something that was brought up by the City Council in the past was to allow garages and structures to be higher than 15 feet, 4 to 5 feet away from the property line with a director's review.
So they basically want to increase the garage height or the storage height to 20 feet and then still have the 5 feet setback.
That's correct.
And the accessory
5 or 4, whichever the Planning Commission or City Council approves.
Okay, and then the accessory dwelling units is how many feet? What's the heights on that one?
The maximum height for accessory dwelling units that the state law allows is 16 feet.
16 feet, but that's state law. What about city law?
Well, the city did adopt that 16 feet.
City just accepted the 16 feet.
That's detached accessory dwelling units.
Well, okay. I guess I see that there is a problem regarding parking, and I do see that it's been the last year or two now that the ADU is coming in, and a lot of people are converting their garages to an ADU, and that there's no parking. That is a problem. However, I don't see a solutions in perhaps maybe our commission should come up with some type of solutions that we can, one, encourage residents to build garage plus the ADU. I'm not sure how, but how and what we're doing right now, it doesn't seem like it's helping. Basically, when a resident comes in, they look at the code and they say, okay, I complied, I fit with what the city wants, and then therefore, this is what I'm going to do. If we have a foresight to see how we want to encourage residents to build garage and also have an ADU, then perhaps maybe the combinations, we get both. On one side, we have a garage, and the other side, we also have the ADUs that they want as well. So how do we get both from our residents, and so that it doesn't, all these cars won't impact the street as much at the end of the day? So we had to be creative instead of coming up with all these rules that may not even work at the end. So I can see that there is a problem. So like, for example, the heights of the ADU, yes, state law said it's 16 feet. However, some city, forgot which city it was, they allow it 25 feet or 35 feet. Part of the reason is they allow the garages to be on the bottom, and then on top would be the, what do you call this, ADU, the accessory dwelling units. That actually encourages people who live in a very tight area that ultimately at the end of the day, they still need parking. You may have these units, but you're probably driving around the block like a chicken's head cut off, trying to park your car. Or if you find a parking space, you're never going to leave. That's how it is in Santa Monica. There you go, or the beach. But I haven't lived at the beach area yet, but Santa Monica's pretty close. So anyway, as a city, we had to be creative, and we have to come up with, as commissioners and staff, we have to come up with some ways to actually, ultimately at the end of the day, if the city thinks and value garages, we need to find a ways to also work with the residents so that they can have both the garage and also the ADU. And we need to find a ways to come up with an ideas. I don't know how and what yet. But instead of going around in circle and preventing it, and ultimately at the end, we may not get the garages, which is what we wanted, to encourage people to park off the street. Because some area in West Covina, there's no parking space. And I addressed this a few, since this ADU law came about, since 2002, but I haven't been on commission that long. However, it's time to talk about it, and it's time to seriously take into considerations of what and how we can encourage the parking and encourage the development in a way that benefits both the cities, the residents, and everyone gets what they want. If that's what truly what the city is going after, is encouraging residents to build more garages. Because right now, some of the residents who he called a carriage, which is a garage, he wanted to build an ADU on top of the garage, and I told him, you can't. He said, why not? I said, well, you just can't. Because it's 16 feet, and your garage right now, with the roof on top of it, it's at least 12 feet already. So you can't build a place to live with 4 feet. Sorry, my math tonight is not that great. But so ultimately, at the end of the day, we're not encouraging him, and he's trying to find different ways to have his carriage, he called it, not courage, I'm sorry.
Carriage, yeah.
He called a garage a carriage, that he wants to put his livable ADU on top of it. I wish he's here tonight, but he's not. But that's something that we also need to listen to our resident to see what it is that they want. And he does ultimately want his garage. He didn't want to convert his garage, but then he had no other choice. The only thing I can say to him is that you can't. And go read the state code.
Okay, let's stick to what we're voting on tonight. So right now, we're voting on the verbiage of recreational as opposed to non-habitable. And that's a simple fix. I think we agree on everything except you had a question about the height, correct?
Correct. So we're increasing the heights to 20 feet.
Right.
And still have the 5 feet setback limitations for the 4 feet. Or 4 feet.
It depends on number 4.
I'm sorry?
The answer to that question depends on number 4. It would be 5 feet if number 4 is not adopted, or is not recommended as part of the draft ordinance, and it would be 4 feet if it is. So it just depends.
So it's only a difference of 1 foot?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I have a few questions with regard to the height of the detached garages at 20 feet. What's the setback for that currently?
Currently 25 feet.
25 feet. Okay, and would that change at all with the proposed amendment?
Yes, if the proposed amendment is adopted, the staff, with the staff's recommendation, it would be allowed, a garage or a storage shed would be allowed to be at 20 feet with a director's review.
Okay, so the front setback is 25 feet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then what are the side and rear setback minimums for that?
No, I'm sorry, the 25 feet setback is the rear setback.
Okay, for a 20-foot garage.
For a 20-foot garage.
Okay, so for an existing 12-foot garage, the setback's only 5 feet.
5 feet, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And then what are the parameters of the director's review?
As staff's proposing, the director would make a determination that the structure is, in the proposed structure and development is consistent with the structures on, it's consistent and compatible with the structures on the property. And also the director would have to make a determination that the proposed structure is at least 10 feet away from the neighbor's house, and at least 10 feet away from a neighbor's swimming pool.
Okay, I'm confused because you said there's a requirement for a 20-foot garage that would be a 25-foot setback.
That's correct.
Okay, so why would there need to be a determination as to whether or not it's within 10 feet of any structure or any pool?
That was just staff's thought, because if a garage was if a 20-foot tall garage or storage shed that's like 5 feet away from the rear property line, right. And there's a neighbor has a swimming pool that's also 5 feet away from the rear property line, a tall structure can cast a shadow on their swimming pool.
Right. I guess what I'm not following is you said there's a requirement that there would be a 25-foot setback, and that's all the way around, correct?
There's currently a requirement for a 25-foot rear setback. That's correct.
Oh, this is just for the rear setback.
That's
so the side setback is still 5 feet, correct?
The side setback is still 5 feet. That's correct.
Okay. Well, then in that context, then I would say I would want a larger minimum setback than 10 feet. I mean, absolutely, because a 20-foot structure going in is significantly more of a potential impact on a neighbor's yard than something that's only 12 feet tall. So I think in that context, I'd want to have a minimum of a 15-foot setback.
15-foot setback from the property line, or
15 feet differential between somebody's pool or existing structure.
Side setback, is that what you're
Yes,
referring
side
to,
setback.
Commissioner?
Excuse me. Just so we're clear.
Okay, so setback, not necessarily the property line, but from a neighboring pool or a neighboring house.
Any existing structure.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So what did we conclude? We just stay with the fact that it's be away from a neighbor's house and away from the neighbor's pool?
Commissioner Lewis would like to see if the 20-foot the garage and storage sheds would be allowed to be 20 feet in height, within 25 feet from the rear from the rear property line. He would like to see the garage or storage shed to be at least 15 feet away from a neighbor's pool or structure.
I think as long as it doesn't cast shadow, it should go under review. But I think he could take his comments
with the director's review.
With the director's review for the 10-foot or 12-foot or what might it be.
Quick question with regard to storage sheds. What type of storage sheds are we talking about that are I guess 20 feet in height? I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that.
Well, there's in the I guess in the South Hills area there are larger homes, and some homes have are like Tudor style, for instance, and storage sheds and accessory structures are required to be the same architectural style as the house. Mm-hmm. So if you have a Tudor style house, the roof pitch is a lot steeper, okay, and the structure is a lot higher.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. Fair enough.
And also, I've seen them put boats. They want it a little bit higher so they can pull that thing in there.
Say that again.
I mean, the garage. Why it has to be so high and what have you? Sometimes they pull their
absolutely. I've seen that
equipments.
That's pretty commonplace.
Okay. You would like to make a motion?
don't know.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. I believe it's code amendment.
I don't know that you need to make a motion because it's coming back to you. So I think your direction was give us input and direction so we can come back with the proposed language.
Sure. Okay, so I guess, so do we need a motion with direction, or do we just give staff direction and that's it, or consensus?
Just give staff direction and also continue it to
September 20th.
to September. What date is this? To September 28th. Because this meeting, this code amendment has been noticed, so continuing it to another, to a date certain will save the city money in noticing.
So that's your motion needs for the continuing this to the 28th.
Okay, so I would motion to continue this to the 28th of September as the date certain, and with the changes as discussed with regard to the setbacks and director's review pertaining to garages or detached garages and storage sheds.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion by Vice Chair Lewis and a second by Chair Becerra. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Hing? Vice Chair Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair Becerra?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. The commission has given staff direction how to proceed with this matter. Public hearing items have been concluded. Staff will now present non-public hearing item. Who will present the non-hearing item?
We do not have a non-hearing item.
Okay.
There are no non-hearing items on the agenda, so we'll proceed with the commission reports, comments, miscellaneous items. Commission reports, comments, and miscellaneous. Okay. Would any of the commissioners like to report or comment on any item? Okay. Community Development Director's Report. Lena, are there any items to report to the commission?
No, just pursuant to the actions taken tonight, the Planning Commission has continued the overlay zone and code change or code amendment to the regarding the overlay zone at the Auto Plaza BID to September 14th, and the proposed code amendments to the residential standards in the residential agriculture and single-family residential zones to the September 28th Planning Commission meetings.
Okay. Were there any actions taken by the City Council that pertain to the Planning Commission?
Yes, the City Council has approved both the Vincent Place and Cameron 2 residential projects. And that's it for me this evening.
Since there's no further business to consider, this meeting is adjourned at 9:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone.